Your ex didn't miss you the day after the breakup. They probably didn't miss you the week after either. And if you've been sitting there wondering why they seem completely fine, why they're posting, laughing, moving around like nothing happened, I need you to hear this. That's not the end of the story. That's just the beginning of it. Because there is a moment, and it comes for almost everyone, where it all shifts, where the relief they felt fades, where the noise of their new freedom goes quiet, and what's left is the weight of what they actually lost. Today I'm going to walk you through exactly when that moment happens, what's going on inside them when it does, and, most importantly, what you need to be doing right now to make sure it hits the way it should. Let's start with the thing that's probably hurting you the most right now. They seem okay, maybe even better than okay. And you're over here barely sleeping, checking your phone every 20 minutes, replaying every conversation, trying to figure out where it went wrong. Here's what's actually happening on their end. When someone ends a relationship, or even when they're the one who got left, but had been emotionally checked out for a while, there's an initial release of pressure. Psychologists call this the honeymoon of the breakup. The tension that had been building, the arguments, the distance, the unmet needs, that tension is suddenly gone. And the nervous system reads that as relief. It doesn't mean they didn't love you. It doesn't mean the relationship meant nothing. It means the human brain prioritizes the removal of pain over the recognition of loss. The loss comes later. And this is where most people make their first mistake. They see their ex seemingly thriving and they panic. They reach out, they over-explain, they try to remind their ex what they had, and in doing that, they actually delay the very moment we're talking about today. More on that in a minute. There's a timeline that plays out after almost every significant breakup. It's not exact. It varies by person, by relationship length, by attachment style. But the pattern is remarkably consistent. Phase 1. Relief. This is what you're seeing right now if your breakup is recent. They feel lighter, unburdened. They might even seem happier. This phase can last anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. Phase 2. Distraction. They fill the space. They go out more. They stay busy. They might start talking to someone new. Not because they're over you, but because the silence is starting to feel uncomfortable and they don't know what to do with it yet. This phase is important to understand. The distraction isn't healing, it's avoidance. They're outrunning the feeling, not processing it. Phase 3. The quiet. This is the phase nobody talks about. At some point, usually between 3 weeks and 3 months out, the distraction stops working. The newness wears off, and in that silence, memories start surfacing. Not just the bad ones that justified the breakup, the real ones, the specific ones, the inside jokes, the way you made them feel, the version of themselves they were when they were with you. And that's when it starts. Phase 4. The realization. This isn't a dramatic moment like in the movies. It rarely is. It's usually quiet, private. It might be triggered by a song, a place you used to go together, seeing something that reminded them of you, and realizing, for the first time, that they can't just text you about it anymore. That's the moment. Now here's the part I need you to pay close attention to. Because this moment, this realization, it's not guaranteed. Whether it happens and how hard it hits depends almost entirely on what you do in the meantime. There are 2 versions of this story. Version 1. After the breakup, you reach out repeatedly. You text, you call, you try to explain yourself. You maybe show up somewhere you know they'll be. You watch their stories. They see you watching. You're still present, still available, still there. In this version, your ex never really experiences your absence. They might feel annoyed, they might feel guilty, but they don't feel loss, because you haven't actually left. The realization never fully lands because you keep interrupting it. Version 2. You go quiet, not out of games, not out of strategy, but because you understand that your energy, your presence, your attention is valuable, and you stop giving it away for free to someone who chose to walk away from it. In this version, something interesting happens. The space you leave, they start to feel it. First, it's just quiet. Then, it's noticeable. Then, it's a question. Why haven't they reached out? Then, it's a realization. They're actually okay without me. Then, and this is the part, they start to wonder if they made a mistake. No contact isn't about punishing your ex. It's about letting the weight of losing you actually land. You cannot feel the weight of something that's still sitting in your hand. Let me give you the psychological framework behind why this works. There's a concept called reactance, a well-documented psychological principle that describes what happens when someone perceives that a freedom or option has been taken away from them. When you suddenly become unavailable, your ex's brain registers a loss of access, and the mind instinctively increases the value of what it can no longer have. It's not manipulation. It's not a trick. It's just how human psychology works. We want what we can't have. We undervalue what's always available. Think about it in your own life. The moment you stopped chasing something, a job, a person, an outcome, and genuinely let go, how often did it start moving toward you? There's also something called the Zeigarnik effect, the brain's tendency to fixate on incomplete things. A relationship that ended with you suddenly going quiet, with unresolved energy, with no final dramatic scene, that's an open loop in your ex's mind. And the brain hates open loops. It will keep returning to it, turning it over, trying to make sense of it. That's not weakness on their part. That's just human neuroscience working exactly as designed. So let's bring this home. If you're early in a breakup, first few weeks, the most important thing you can do right now is nothing. Not nothing because you're giving up. Nothing because you're letting the process work. No texts, no calls, no checking their profile. Not because they deserve your silence, but because you deserve your peace. And because silence is the only thing that creates the space for that realization to happen. If you've already broken no contact, that's okay. You're human. It happens. Start again today, right now. The clock doesn't reset on their feelings just because you slipped once. While you're in no contact, your job isn't to wait for them. Your job is to become someone who genuinely doesn't need them to come back in order to be okay. That's not a cliche. That's the actual work. Because here's the truth, and this is the part I want you to sit with. The version of you that's desperate, anxious, and reaching out. That version won't get them back even if they return. But the version of you that healed, that rebuilt, that stopped making someone else's choice the centerpiece of your entire existence. That version, that's the version they realize they lost. That's the version that makes the moment hit hard. You don't manufacture that. You become it. I know this is hard. I know some of you are watching this at a time of day when everything feels heavier than it should. But you're here. You're asking the right questions, and that matters more than you know. If this helped you today, subscribe, because I put out a new video every single day. And drop a comment below telling me where you are in your situation. How long since the breakup? What you're struggling with most? I read everything. I'll see you in the next one.